All right, guys, bang, bang. I've got Alex here. What's going on, man?
Bang, bang. Super excited. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. We've been meaning to do this for a while now. And you are known for creating the Alex token, which is the first personalized crypto token. The people listening to this, 50% of them are going to think that that's awesome and really exciting and cutting edge, and the other 50% are going to be like, "Oh, great, another shit coin." So we'll get to all that in a second. But let's start with just your background, and kind of how did you come onto crypto and get so enthralled with it?
Yeah, sure. And indeed, like contention is great when 50-50 ratio. That's the best ratio to get attention. So I got this right. So my background, I spent 0 to 18-year-old in Paris, high school and everything. And then studied in the UK, learned English for 3 years, business management. And then for a year, I tried a startup that failed. It was about like 3D printing platform. But basically, my goal in life is to be a founder of tech companies and optimizing for impact. And so once this has failed, I realized that I need to have the best network possible in order to succeed in life. And then I tried to select an industry because I was just going for 3D printing because of serendipity, I guess. But I chose like three technologies that I studied for a while, which is AI, crypto, and AR and VR and X reality. And as a young person starting their career, crypto has just the lowest barriers of entry. And, this like the internet created the best entrepreneurs in the world. And so I thought, if they were alive today, I mean, they are alive today, they would choose crypto today. And it paid off so far. It's going great. So I've entered crypto last year, 12 months ago. And I've done a lot of primitives on Ethereum, so applications in DeFi, DAO, NFT, and lately my personal token, Alex. And I can talk about any of those, but it's been such a journey so far and super excited. And now like onto my next startup. Short background.
Got it. Let's just dive right into the Alex token. I think that's the one that you're probably known most for. What the hell is this thing?
So basically, it's a token that represents my community. And it started off in March when basically COVID happens. I got my only source of income cut off. Like I'm a founder, I don't have any salaries. And I am scheduled on main stage at a big Ethereum conference to talk about personal tokens because I've had one for a while. I was known as the only one to have it, but I've never done anything with it. And I thought, you know what? This is now or never. Do a small token sale of $20,000 and announce it on stage. And it got great feedback. And then a month later, I released the documents to participate in the sale. 30 people did. And that's it. In 2 days, it got sold off. And that's where I got a bit of media attention. And it's awesome because I will be giving 15% of my income in the next 3 years to those 30 people. And then since the Alex token has gone up in value, I've done like other experiments since and exclusive content to benefit my community.
Got it. And so the idea here is people can buy the tokens, right? There was a token sale, but can they also buy them elsewhere in order to get part of the tokens that you didn't sell to those original investors who put up 30 or the $20,000?
Yes, so 10% was reserved for those. And so the immense majority, which doesn't have any claim on income or whatever, and it's used as a utility for my community, um, are on Uniswap right now because Uniswap is permissionless. And you've got Bradley from Roll on board, which is the creator of my social token. And he always does that. The team actually stakes a bit of ETH to create some initial liquidity for my token.
Got it. And so when somebody goes and buys the Alex token today, because they weren't part of the token sale, they don't get a claim on your income, right? Only those investors do. What do I get in exchange for buying the Alex token?
So you get tons of things. So first, you get access to my Telegram group only group chat. We have like a bot that actually checks if you have enough Alex and kicks you out if you sell the tokens. Also a newsletter. So that's the two like exclusive content to get updated with my life. And because I have a commitment that I will continue experiments with the token that's informal with my community, if I get more popular, which is actually a perverse incentive because successful is different from popular. If I get more popular, the token should have more fans buying into it for the expense that I'm doing, and potentially could go up. Anyway, so other than this, I've done Control My Life, which is a quite clickbait title for personal token voting. And so Austin Griffiths, a very famous Ethereum developer, did this ERC20 voting thing. And basically people could stake on my daily habit in July. And so there was like solely living off Bitcoin or waking up at 6 a.m. or running off 5 miles, which I've done. And this vote won. And the fourth one, I don't remember, but I think it's like Go Vegan. And it's funny, like 1 million tokens were voted. There's only 4 million circulating right now, which is such a huge participation rate compared to many like other organizations in the space. So that was very funny to see.
And so what you basically did was you said, hey, there's 4 things that I may do this month. If you're a token holder, you get a vote and you're literally going to quote unquote control my life, right? You're going to basically, the crowd's going to decide what I do.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this happened over a week. And at the end, running 5 miles won. And so to prove myself on my Alex only Telegram group chats, I've gone on to publish Strava like runs every single day. I mean, 5 days a week for the whole month of July, running 5 kilometers. And that was very fun.
Got it. And so extrapolate this out, right? Is you're the first person to kind of do a lot of these things. I think, again, a lot of people look at it and they say, that's kind of an experiment. But why are you doing this? And then how do you think that this evolves over time? Like, what does this look like in the steady state? Is every human walking around with their own token and we're all controlling each other's lives? Or how does that play out?
So there's so many different things here. But I think the main one, and the one I'm probably going to use, is that a stake in someone's community is amazing. And the fact that people can support me and have a vehicle to support me so early on in my life. And I was in Europe, so I did not benefit from Silicon Valley. Like now I'm connected to people in the Bay Area and very young, they can get like $100,000 from wealthy people very young to optimize their impact. And so I did not get that. I was born in Paris. And so for me, it's like a whole new vehicle, way better than student loans, way better than other alternatives of funding than it exists today. So I'm creating this whole new different path. It's clunky because I'm like the only one there pretty much. Now there's more people. There's around 10 of us, I think. And so, yeah, creating my own path to a little bit of funding, but also the fact that I'm pioneering this also got me some attention, connections. And so far, it's not my full-time thing. Like I'm still a founder building startups. And I've actually got a personal token manager like a month ago, which is super weird, like 2020 jobs. But I'm still keeping this as a side thing because it really interests people and I love experimenting.
What is a personal token manager?
So that person is Cooper Tully, and he is a talent manager for artists in Los Angeles. But he also is one of the biggest contributors to the Defiant, which is a news source for Ethereum info. And so mixing those two is literally being my agent, especially as personal token people probably in the future will be athletes or entrepreneurs, artists. And so this is the kind of same vibe where, if I have some OTC deals where people want to buy my token in bulk, other than Uniswap for voting in my experiment, he could handle the deals or he could suggest some experiments. And so he has other people under his arm. And he just started this like a month ago, which for me is fascinating. And yeah, I'm super glad to be part of it. And at the same time, just like an artist can focus on music whilst the manager does all the business stuff, same for me. I can focus on my startup and he's like experimenting with my token on the side.
Got it. And so you're young. How old are you?
I just turned 24. I was playing the young card so long, but now it's like, yeah.
Listen, as somebody who's 32 and still gets called young, 24, you got a long way to go before anybody says that you're not young. Talk to me a little bit about where does this drive and the ambition come from in terms of you've met a lot of people, you've built a great network, you've tinkered with a lot of technology, and you're only 24 years old. Like most 24-year-olds are trying to figure out how to go get drunk on the weekend. Like, why are you doing this?
I'm doing this because there was like a bug in the matrix where at like 13, I got so fascinated by Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs is the best, especially compared to my background where I'm not that technical. And Steve Jobs is someone that's pretty much, product and marketing as a tech person. And this is what I'm driving for today. And I seem to be doing well at both of those so far. And crypto is also the best field to enter because the level of talent isn't still world class. I think Silicon Valley dismisses crypto for now, which is healthy for young entrepreneurs like me to kind of like sharpen the knife in the meantime. So it's like, yeah. So basically, initially, Steve Jobs, I'm just so fascinated. For me, Apple is the best brand in the world. And they actually are anyway by market cap, right? So yeah.
Got it. And so as you think about these personalized tokens, these community tokens, you mentioned a little bit, you're a young guy who's kind of sharpening the blade, right? Or kind of at the tip of the spear of this. But when you pull that back, it sounds like you think that every musician, every entrepreneur, every athlete, and pretty much anyone in the spotlight is going to have one of these. Is that fair?
I think so. Just like, Justin Can, which is the founder of Twitch, was a weirdo streaming himself. And then he created a $1 billion platform called Twitch. I think right now I'm that weirdo monetizing myself. But I think every single creator of every type, even politicians I can see in the future, could rally that community. And that would be awesome, right? I think, artists usually thank fans, by saying, I would be nothing without you. Thank you so much for being there, my day ones, etc. But they never thank them financially. And I think it's long overdue that we do that.
Got it. And so as that plays out, is this something where the token structures are like inflationary? You can create more tokens. Is it something where there's just a preset kind of artificial cap, somewhere like a Bitcoin? Like how do you think about that token structure, especially when you're starting out and you've got 30 investors, but if you were to become, the next Drake or the next LeBron James, you then could have the potential of millions and millions of people wanting access to this.
That makes sense. So right now, the model that Roll does with me and all the other tokenized people is a 10 million fixed cap that's not going to be inflated, and a token vesting mechanism of $200,000 every single month. And so I kind of cheated on it. Like we unlocked 1 million tokens for like the investor stuff because that's special, but it's like still that way. And for me, it's great. Fixed supply, I can understand because it's only my OnlyFans. And, if I get super famous later, does everyone wants to be a token holder of myself? Maybe not. Maybe more the super fans. So that's fine that it's fixed supply to kind of create some scarcity. And then the vesting is great, in my opinion, because as I grow in popularity, the token gets a bit more liquid. And if it was all at once, it would not be as exciting. And now we can see growth in all segments. So that's great.
Got it. And is the thought process that these people will stop looking for dollars or whatever the fiat currency is, and they'll just want the appreciation of their token, or is it something where they coexist? So hey, I still want the cash flow, but then I also want the token to appreciate in price too.
I think it will coexist. But I do think that if you're a huge fan of someone, you would love to get as many of their tokens because surely all of their products and services will be linked at least maybe as a like loyalty discount scheme. But of course, I think fiat denomination at least is here to stay. It's just so simple.
Yeah. And given what you've done already, you've been doing this for what, 6 months, give or take. What are the biggest surprises or the things that if you could go back, you wouldn't do?
Biggest surprises. So yeah, people go into two categories. Either they're like, oh my God, you're going to lose control of your life. This is undeterred servitude. You're going to be like enslaved by your shareholders, and this is the worst. Like you have no control. And I'm like, well, no, I do have control. Like this is an experiment. Like the control my life thing was clickbait because I'm good at marketing, but it's not actually controlling my life. And then the second thing is people saying you have too much control. This is 2017 ICO. You are a scam. You're gonna run off with the money, etc. And so these 2 points that are negative towards this experiment kind of contradict themselves. So it's nice because it feels like I'm still at the middle right now. But I can see both of the sides going wrong. And I think I don't have any regrets, but I do have some potential things to advise future tokens and future personal tokens, which is maybe have some recourse, have some trustless, quote unquote, ways to make sure you don't rip off the community. I haven't done it personally because it was so early on, but I think we're gonna learn as a space. And so far, I am trustworthy. I didn't do any exit scam. I'm a great person so far. So It's okay. And I'm actually willing to enforce myself some rules, maybe, I don't know, maybe like a buyback program in the future or something like this, or add recourse retroactively. So I'm really open to keep security high and like keep every investor safe, right? This is a playground. This is not even investors, to be honest. It's more like shareholders of my community.
So when you say that you're a good person so far, are you planning to not be a good person in the future?
Yeah. No, but like I advertise, like, even for my token sale or anything, like I can technically run away with the money. This is, not trustless. It's the opposite of the trustless protocols in DeFi, for instance, where it's like set up on Ethereum. This is just a person that you have to trust. But at least my reputation is on the line. And most of my career has been on that reputation. So I have really no incentive to run away. But I just wanted to let know people that I could still turn bad. But of course I won't. It makes no sense, but I just want to be honest.
Got it. And then in terms of you're giving a percentage of your income, I think it's 15% for 3 years. How do, if I'm one of those token holders that get that income share, how do I know how much money you made?
Right. So we discussed this a lot, and I won't give my tax return, and people will have to believe what I made. And so I basically, like, I did it for the first time last month because it was the first quarter, and I described all my payments that I've gone through. And yeah, that's it. Like, I don't know. There's no trustless way again. And even then I could perhaps like fake my tax return. Like, I think it's really based on trust. And if you don't trust me or trust that I will do good, you probably should stay away from this.
Uh, why not give the tax return? I think most people would say like, oh, that would be the easiest way to prove it. Is it just because it's got sensitive information, or what's the thought process to not share that?
Yeah, maybe I'll do it in the future. It's just that I haven't filed the tax return for next year. So it was by a quarter. So like I kind of had to do gross income, which is actually more money for the shareholders anyway.
Got it. And in terms of those payments and stuff, are you publishing that for anyone in the world to see, and just the people who hold the tokens get it, or is that information that's just shared with the token holders? Like, how do you think about, I guess, like the transparency and information sharing versus income sharing?
So the income sharing is public on the Ethereum blockchain. I haven't advertised it. I think I've said it on Twitter, like, the airdrop has happened, etc. Maybe I put the link, but I didn't want to say the amount that I've made too loud. I have a newsletter that people have to pay Alex for to access it, where I disclose it, even if you're not one of the investors. So if you want to go that route, that's fine. But I don't want to reveal financial information too publicly on Twitter. And yeah, I think if people can dig, they can see, but actually it's quite hidden because it's in a currency that's not actually pegged 1-1. First we thought USDC or a stable coin, but now it's in Alex LP tokens on Uniswap. So like people are providing liquidity. That's how they pay me. So it's actually a very funny way because although it's public, it's quite hard to reverse engineer how much I made, which I find funny. But people can if they book my newsletter.
Got it. And then in terms of how this evolves over time, do you think that people will have to kind of diverge from the "oh, just trust me" model to something that's like on-chain cash flow, or some other model where people say, "No, I want to be able to verify what your income is," either
Yeah,
for you or for like a big, athlete, musician, whatever?
yeah, for sure. I think, and we saw Spencer Dinwiddie. I think he closed his sale, so he's a NBA player that tokenized his contracts. He's the first one. He got some pushback from the NBA, but I think he ended up doing it. Um, I think I haven't done this properly because this was the first time with a very tiny reasonable amount. But I think I could see some regulations around it and making it like the kind of new seed investment, the new Y Combinator. I can totally see that in action, and there will be some rules and enforcements to protect the shareholders.
What's the craziest thing that somebody's asked you, or the craziest pushback that you've gotten? Like listen, and for those that are listening, I'm fascinated by this because I can't tell how much of this is like complete bullshit and it's just going to go like, it's going to like fall off a cliff. And then you're going to call me one day and be like, dude, that was a fun experiment, but like it didn't work at all versus like there is this like small glimmer that I see where people have kind of income sharing via like tokenization or something like that. Now, what platform does it get built on? What's the currency? Like there's so many questions as to like how it actually gets implemented. But the idea of like just a simple on-chain cash flow, like that's interesting. Right.
Right.
And so how do you kind of start to incorporate that? Okay, well, if then you can get access to that information, it's easier to maybe there's not true corporations, right? Like I know that there's companies in, I think both Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of communities that say, look, we're not going to go with a traditional legal structure. Instead, we're going to do everything on chain. And like your ownership is basically held on chain. And therefore you have a claim on cash flows and things like that. This feels very similar to that, right?
Right, right. Well, first of all, yeah, let me defend personal tokens because I don't think it's bullshit at all. Kickstarter works. Kickstarter is a model to invest in people before they achieve their potential. ISA with Lambda School and Education for software engineers really work. And so we know that if we add like the capitalism, speculation, and financial aspect that crypto brings so easily, it would be great because it would attract more revenue for creators, which are typically a persona that doesn't make enough money and is struggling to monetize, right? Like people spend hours listening to podcasts. Do podcasters really get paid for the amount of time that people consume versus Netflix or music? And even Netflix or music are quite underpaid. So I think it would be huge to have more monetization for all types of creators, athletes, entrepreneurs, politicians. And so that's for my defense.
All right, hold on. Before you continue, okay? So I will buy most of that argument, but what does that look like? Let's say that let's take a musician and an athlete. So for LeBron James, and then let's say for Drake, right? Is this something where they create tokens? They once they're already a star, they then have like a token sale, ICO, whatever the latest kind of vocabulary is for this. But they basically sell the tokens into the market. They hold some back. Maybe there's vesting, maybe there's not. And then they create like an economy or an ecosystem where you can only use the LeBron James token to go to his games or buy things in his store or attend, maybe movies he produces or stuff like that? Or is it something that's more of like a loyalty points? So it's within this closed ecosystem, but all you can really do is maybe win like a cool experience or do something like that. Like, how do you see it actually in the steady state, somebody like LeBron James or Drake using this stuff?
So I think it can be either. So either the revenue income or the loyalty discount, and maybe the latter is going to be easier legally, right? Because it's just, 15% off my merch as Drake. Then, the superstars, I don't think, unless the first one, I think, the first one will have a premium because it is the first one that is a superstar doing it. But I think long term, the best people to that should do a personal token should be B-list celebrities that have potential to go A-list. And so that way, the more potential is the more gains for the people who want to invest in that token.
Got it. And is the thought process that literally you're like buying a rising star, right? Like similar to buying a stock that is poised to break out. You're basically being able to quote unquote invest in the person before they break out.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I see it because the person has potential, you invest in it. So you got the early fans now and the speculators who objectively think that the star is going to rise. So that's just more monetization. And that's great. I think crypto is about making everything liquid. And this is a fun step towards it.
You're either out of your mind or you're dead on. We're gonna find out. and look, and I think there's a lot of people who will hear me talking about this stuff, right? And they're like, why are you even talking about it? And what's interesting to me is the more that you get it into like, hey, I have a currency, like look at this thing that you can use to pay me and do all that kind of stuff. Like, and probably not as sold on that. The idea that this is just the next iteration from Kickstarter to ISAs to, tokenization of this person and basically, what's the difference between somebody's parents giving them a loan right? Versus them using this as a way to raise capital, right? It's a new capital markets mechanism for an individual. There's probably all kinds of legal things that need to be figured out, but in terms of like that as a use case, you can see the use cases there. It's just how does it actually get implemented that probably determines whether it's successful or not.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see in the future, to be honest. Yeah, like we can't know if it's ridiculous or not, but I tend to think the most ridiculous ideas actually end up being $1 trillion companies.
Look, that's why I'm saying you're either out of your mind or you're going to be really
Yes,
right.
yes. But that's the good part. It's like it's very rare to find ideas that look really, really dumb and weird. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm not sure if it's going to nothing or to like a massive world-changing thing.
I I think that you also are the sense I get from you, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. You either think that this is going to end up being very kind of foolish and a toy, or this is going to end up being $1 trillion thing, right? I think you have a kind of a binary outcome in terms of how this plays out, or am I wrong on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the biggest
Yeah.
thing usually started as toy and Bitcoin had the same treatment, right? So and now it's not a toy anymore.
All right, that's fair. So we're on the same page. Because of all the things that you're doing, you've been building a bunch on Ethereum. Two questions. One is just how much of this are you building versus you're leveraging tools and platforms that other people have built, and then we'll get into talking kind of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But just help people understand like how much of this is reliant on you doing it versus you're able to leverage other things that are built and they could go do it if they wanted.
Right. So first, since I'm not very technical, of course I know basics of coding to be in the space. But if doing means coding, no, I haven't coded any of my stuff. A little bit control my life, which is one of my experiments with the Alex token. I've done some front end, but that's like very little work. No, I think the huge part about Ethereum is composability, meaning that people build a smart contract, you can build on top of it. And so, for instance, I can give an example. So Rocket is a lending platform that take NFT, which is unique items on Ethereum. And so I've taken like the DAO governance, so like the way people can decide how to give loans to people. Like I raised $50,000 for those lenders, then give out NFT, and it's like a transaction to like a multi-sig that holds NFT. And so I've used all the tools available to me on Ethereum, and there's so much positive sum experiments to be done. There's not enough people. I mean, there's so many builders coming to Ethereum, but the space is still so vague. Like I remember one of my marketing technique is like to say, this is the world's first ever. Like I said, this is the world's first ever domain name as a collateral, or the world's first ever crypto art piece as a collateral. Like we took Josie Bellini, she's a famous Ethereum artist, and we gave a loan against it because we knew it would be valuable long-term, in our opinion. And so, yeah, building on top of others, but it's still the very first, foundation anyway. I think right now Ethereum is a bunch of APIs, and we need the front end for the end user, and that's not being built right now, but it will in the future.
All right. Then you keep saying this Bitcoin is to Ethereum as email is to the internet. What the hell does that mean?
Well, it's because, email was the first form of data on the internet, and it was one of the best, and we still use it, and email is never going anywhere. There's Superhuman and other companies doing some niches, but mostly it's like a free service, and it's really awesome that it's decentralized. And then there's the internet, which is billions of ways to see data. And I see the same thing with value, right? So Bitcoin is one kind of value, and that's great. And it's not going away because of its brilliant marketing and branding. But Ethereum, which has a less good marketing in its name, but the platform will speak for itself because billions of smart contracts will then become startups, which will become extremely successful. And I think right now it's unstoppable at this point. They reach escape velocity. And even if some other competing blockchain builds on top of it, it will be a layer two solution. So I'm extremely bullish on Ethereum and the fact that you can create so many different sources of Bitcoin for each flavor that you want, whether it's lending, insuring, borrowing, any kind of usage of value. I think for me, it's really revolutionary.
So there's a bunch of people who listen to this that are into Bitcoin. There's a bunch of people who listen to this that are into Ethereum.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. What are the pros and cons of Bitcoin first? Like how do you look at Bitcoin and what do you say? Hey, these are the good things, but and then these are the bad things.
Probably Bitcoin as a regulatory edge, because I guess, all the politicians, etc., are going to look at Bitcoin first before Ethereum. Um, the cons, it's that it's a bit boring. Like, there's nothing happening. There's like a halving every 4 years or something. Like, I want exciting stuff to build on. I want to be useful. Like, how can I be useful in Bitcoin beside being an influencer? I'm not sure how can I do anything. And so Ethereum, you can build so much stuff. It's so impressive. It's like, this is the future. This is the internet. This is where like the next innovations happen. This is where the next superstars are born. So of course, Ethereum any day.
You, you know that you're trolling and you're laughing, which I respect.
It's not. I'm not trolling. Like, Ethereum is so amazing as a platform, and
But why? But okay,
gold,
hold on.
we don't trade gold every day, but we use the internet every day, and so we will maybe have some Bitcoin. It will be like, the family treasury if like your dad is a Bitcoin old addict, but like every single person is going to have lending solution based on Ethereum.
Why is it going to be based on Ethereum?
Well, I mean, of course, like if tomorrow data says otherwise, I will jump off Ethereum. But right now the data is like obvious. It's everywhere. It's just working so well. And Ethereum 2.0 is not even live. Layer 2 is not even live.
So but is it, hold on. Is Ethereum 2.0 ever going to launch?
Well, I'm bearish on the timeline. Maybe it won't be this year, as some people say phase 0 will, but it's going to happen. It's some of the smartest engineers in the world working on this. Like, if it's not them, then who?
Okay. Well, it could just be nobody, right? And it could just never launch. I tend to think that it will launch at some point. I'm with you on that. Timeline is always the hard part for everything in Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, everything, right? So not just them. In terms of Ethereum, what are the pros and cons?
So the pros of Ethereum is that it's the next single biggest financial infrastructure of the universe. And then the cons is that it's still work in progress. It's still slow, expensive, and not scalable. And the UX still sucks. So there's tons to improve. But the fact that despite all of its flaws, it's growing so much, especially DeFi right now, so finance under all forms, including tokenized Bitcoin, that's growing very fast, makes it really, really impressive and something to follow. So this is just my opinion. Like, I grew up like listening to your podcast when I started getting into crypto. And then I slowly started saying like, Anthony is a bit too much into Bitcoin. Yeah.
Listen, we've invested in a lot of things that build on top of Ethereum and are related to the DeFi stuff, right? So I don't know why people think that I'm necessarily a maximalist as much as I think I'm more of a realist in terms of there's just a lot of and actually react to this, right? So what do you think about this? My whole position on the Ethereum and Ether world is that there's a lot of technology being built, but there's not a lot of products being built. And what I mean by that is everyone is saying like, oh, look at this shiny thing that I made it do. And when you show a bunch of other technical people or people who are like really in the weeds, they're like, oh, that's awesome. But then if you go and you try to get any mainstream user to use, I would argue almost any DeFi product, there's nobody outside of like that small technical audience who could figure out how to use it, has an interest in using it, et cetera. So it's still to me very kind of technology being built, not necessarily like user-friendly products. Whereas I think Bitcoin was like that at some point, right? So there was a point where, it'd be even before Mt. Gox or even Mt. Gox, like there was just, not the average Joe was going to buy Bitcoin, right? It was always people kind of on the fringes and super technical, all that kind of stuff. But eventually there was products built that now make it really easy, right? And so the thought process is at some point, probably, and hopefully for the DeFi community and Ethereum and all that, you get the products built. It's just that we're not there yet. Right. So agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, completely agree with that. I would just disagree on the Bitcoin part. I don't see any product built on Bitcoin. Maybe Loli, which is, cashback on Bitcoin, great company. But apart from cashback on Bitcoin, there is no product. None of my friends know how to buy Bitcoin. A part of that in Revolut, which is already like a quite next gen fintech startup. But yeah, I do agree. Like, I think DeFi 6 months ago was not even $1 billion locked. So that's ridiculously tiny. And so, yeah, like, I'm not saying Ethereum is nowhere near yet in terms of products, There's some things going on with Foundation and Zora, which make the design very pretty for artists to tokenize, and it's actually quite adjacent to personal tokens. But apart from those, yeah, all the lending platform is really hard. And that's actually what I'm trying to focus on in my next startup, which will try to help bring consumers. But we're all trying to do this, and it's really hard. And maybe the hard answer is, as long as we don't have ETH2, it's just not scalable, and it's like for nerds, and it's the Netscape of the internet.
You are of the belief that Silicon Valley has kind of dismissed crypto. Explain that.
No, yeah, for sure. But this is, again, just like my last argument, DeFi is just way too tiny for Silicon Valley to care. And so this is why. And so Bitcoin is probably dismissed as, it's just for people who hate governments and super libertarian, and it's not the end consumer. And Ethereum is extremely tiny, but right now it's growing at a magnificent pace. So it went from, I think, 500 million last year to, I think right now it's like 10 billion, 15 billion. I can't even keep count. But there was this famous video of Shamat that you got on your podcast, the billionaire. He said he didn't know about DeFi. And it's funny because I think it's going to become a household name probably next year. Maybe not a household name because it's still a geeky term, decentralized, but I think some DeFi products will cross the chasm very soon. And so the reason why Silicon Valley dismisses it is simply because, yeah, the value being exchanged and locked is ridiculous compared to Bitcoin, which is still ridiculous compared to traditional finance. But the rate at which it's growing is enormous. Just like Jeff Bezos, I think he said in the 90s, I started Amazon where the internet was kind of dead, but it was growing at 19,000% a year. And we are at this time. Ethereum is growing at 19,000% a year or something. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's growing really fast. And this is the reason why it should not be dismissed. And some amazing, maybe next FANG companies are going to be built.
Do you want to know the number one thing I think that the Ethereum and DeFi community could do to accelerate all of that?
Yeah, please do.
Is to say Bitcoin is the first DeFi application, right?
Well, it's not really. Bitcoin has to be custodied by banks and things that you don't control trustlessly.
No, Bitcoin is the only thing that is trustless, right? In terms of on Ethereum, it's not encouraged to run a full node. On Bitcoin, it is. And from a custody standpoint, Bitcoin is much more secure, much more decentralized, right? So I think the reason why I say that the DeFi and Ethereum community saying that, what it does is it actually allows them to draft off of the market acceptance of Bitcoin, right? There's no confusion or lack of interest when it comes to crypto. Almost everyone talks about Bitcoin, right? In terms of the people who aren't like the hardcore crypto enthusiast. And so what I think is rather than trying to say, hey, we're different, what you really want to do is you want to basically say, no, look, we're just like Bitcoin and we're smaller and we're going to grow to be that size one day too. Right. Because that would represent from a market cap standpoint, I think what Ether's like 1/10 the market cap of Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it's going to flip it.
Is it?
Yeah, of course. Like the internet flipped gold ages ago. And I mean, yeah, it's inevitable to me. And I don't.
But hold on. Did the internet flip the global money supply?
No, but that's also an Ethereum task. Bitcoin is not global money supply. Bitcoin is digital gold.
Why is it not money?
It's not money because you can't spend it every day. So that's medium of exchange. Is that a requirement for your definition of money?
But all right. So I'm going to give you an economics lesson. Ready? If you go down this path, Bitcoin is used how much more than Ethereum every day or Ether every day?
I think the Ethereum fees flipped the Bitcoin fees. And actually, I think Uniswap now equals Bitcoin. So Ethereum not only is equally decentralized,
not exchanges.
There was some stats. Now Uniswap flipped Bitcoin as well.
Hold on. Not exchange volume. We're not talking about exchange volume. We're talking about actual on-chain transaction volume. So not trading, right?
Yeah, but the gas fees actually outpace Bitcoin for Uniswap, which is just one protocol on Ethereum. And the crazy part is that Bitcoin wants to rely on block space value, but Ethereum has more expensive block space value. Just imagine the price of block space value that's going to be much more than Bitcoin when Ethereum flips Bitcoin.
Are you making the argument that more people use Ether than Bitcoin right now?
Maybe not, but I don't have. Maybe you have one statistic that would like be against me, but it's
No.
just.
So if you go and you use adjusted on-chain
Do you
transaction
use
volume.
Bitcoin every day? I just don't understand. Like you store Bitcoin, I guess.
Well, hold on a second. So there's two pieces. First of all, a store of value, right? Holding on to it is a use case, right? Same with Ether, right? If Ether wants to be a store of value and a medium of exchange, holding it is a use case. Fair, right?
Yeah.
But the second piece is the adjusted on-chain transaction volume. So if you take out all the exchanges and anything going in and out of exchange, wallets, all that kind of stuff. So right, I think it's Coinmetrics has this stat, and you look at Bitcoin's transaction volume on-chain with all that removed. It's called the adjusted on-chain transaction volume. It is more than the amount of volume that's done on PayPal, Venmo, or Apple Pay last year. Right. So 2019, more people used the Bitcoin network for transaction volume that was not going in and out of exchanges or using on exchanges, but actual some sort of transaction. Now, what it is, we don't know. Right. Same with Ether. Like for a lot of the transactions, we don't actually know what are people sending it for. Right. But we do know that they're sending it. And so I think that the argument here, and this is kind of my point, is like making an argument that Ether is used more than Bitcoin, I think is one, data disproves that, but also two is rather than trying to make the flippening argument, instead what ends up happening is Ether and Ethereum is used for something completely different. Right. And to your point, like there's things that people can do with Ethereum that you can't do with Bitcoin. Now, people in the Bitcoin community, I think, would argue like that's a good thing, right? And there's a reason why that's true. I think people in the Ethereum community would argue, no, the fact that it does something different is a good thing, and we should continue to double down. So my whole thing's always been like both communities and products just double down on what they do best, right? Rather than Bitcoin try to be the next ICO platform or capital markets type platform, or Ethereum and Ether try to be money. Right. It's just like double down on what you're good at. And then that's what ends up actually, providing 90+% of the value of that community and that piece of technology.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the biggest pie is the pie left to eat, right? So Bitcoin is still quite tiny compared to the entire traditional
Of course.
finance system. And maybe your data disproves that Ethereum is more valuable and more like often transacted in volume. But I don't care about today's data. I think in the next few years, this is definitely going to happen because consumers lend, they exchange stable coins, they borrow, they insure, they stake, they bet, they play, like they do so many things. And in Bitcoin, it's like they hold. So I think the data is going to disprove your point very, very soon.
How much how much value is locked in DeFi right now? Do you know?
I think something like $15 billion. And it was
15,
like,
1.5?
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah, it's
That's a lot.
incredible. Last year it was 800 million, I think. It's growing.
Was it earlier this year it broke $1 billion, I think?
I think so, yeah. It's insane, the growth. I think we're going to end the year with like 50 billion locked in DeFi. That would be fair.
But the thing I always wonder, and I don't know if you know this answer or not, and so whoever's listening to this, if you can figure this out, tweet at both of us, is how much of that is what I call like net new capital inflow. So I took dollars or I took Bitcoin and put it in versus you and I create a token and then we stake it somewhere, right? And like that's not technically net new capital inflow. That's like we created, $500 million of market cap, and now that counts towards that metric. I don't know the answer, but that would be one of the questions of like, what's the net new capital inflow? So when it goes from $1 billion to 15, is that literally $14 billion flowing in, right? Ether's market cap, I think, is like 25 billion, if I remember correctly.
I think it's
so
more like now. It's more
what
like
is it?
50 billion.
50?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's tens of billions, right? So like $14 billion of capital, new capital inflow, like maybe, right? Or maybe it's 50-50, whatever it is. It's just like, to me, that feels like a really important difference, because to your point, like there's Ether and then there's the stable coins and there's all these other things built on top of Ethereum. And so how you count all that stuff, I think illuminates not only what is the overall growth of the ecosystem, but also what are the things that are actually driving the growth, right? Because my guess is, let's say that is $14 billion of growth. There's probably 2 or 3 things where 90% of the growth happens, and then everything else is kind of maybe trending slightly upwards, but really it's, Uniswap or something like that that's driving most of the growth.
Right. Well, first of all, I think DeFi Pulse, which tracks the value locked in DeFi, actually accounts for this. But yeah,
Okay.
like I think platforms like Token Daily and other blogs have said, this might be recycling the same old money over and over with new protocols. And perhaps, but in each bull cycle, it starts with a group of degenerate people, like the core group, and then because of the excitement, it brings more money from outside of that, see the growth. So I think definitely we are very early in this bull cycle as of August 2020, but I'm sure that next year there will be retail and consumers going on for those new strategies of investments that are way healthier, by the way, than the ICO in 2017. So I'm super proud of this.
Absolutely. Before we do the rapid fire, which I know you're ready to talk about some aliens, I help me understand, how do you think of portfolio construction in terms of, do you own Bitcoin? Do you own Ether? You obviously own Alex tokens. Like how do you think about kind of your portfolio? Don't tell me amounts, but just like percentage wise. Do you own things other than Bitcoin and Ether and Alex? Like help me understand that.
So I dumped all my Bitcoin for Ethereum last year or something. And now, like you talk to the least wise investor ever. 99% of my net worth, no, sorry, maybe like 90% of my net worth is in Ether, long Ether on the Maker Vault. And it's insured by Nexus Mutual, which is an insurance solution on Ethereum. And that's basically most of my net worth. And then, of course, I have Alex, but I don't really count Alex as my net worth because I don't think I will sell Alex on the market. That's quite unethical right now, especially as the market is illiquid. So yeah, like 90% plus of my liquid net worth is long ETH.
Got it. And so you sold all your Bitcoin, and then you don't own anything else in terms of like other major crypto assets that people
I
would.
own also other DeFi protocols tokens.
Got it.
Whether like for marketing campaigns or for like the SDeFi, which is like a basket of all the DeFi coins, because I think, like the less liquid a token is and the better it is, the higher the returns, right? So that's why probably Ethereum is going to have a better bull run than Bitcoin, other than having the actual use case, which will be like the DeFi stuff that Bitcoin doesn't have. So the less liquid it is. So like DeFi protocols, I think are going to go like 100x or something, at least the great ones.
I love your enthusiasm. And the fact is, I know that you're enjoying this just as much as I am. So that makes me happy.
Yeah.
All right. So last two questions. What's the most important book that you've ever read?
I think Steve Jobs, the biography, because he's like my idol. Like, yeah.
What would you ask Steve Jobs if you could go to dinner with him?
I would love to, but I think the young makes room for the old makes room for the young. And so that's fine if I never meet him, but I would love to.
Well, you can't meet him. He's dead.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's like, I am relieved because it's fine. That's like how time passes. And I think that's what the wisdom he wanted to share as well, which is like, I don't need Steve Jobs. He inspired me and that's great. And now it's my turn to have an impact and to inspire people.
All right. Aliens, believer or non-believer?
I guess believer statistically, like most people. But then I read Max Tegmark Life 2.0, which argues that we might be alone if we consider like the like distanceable universe, like the universe that you can go to, and it's just impossible because it's just so vast that there probably are some aliens, but that's just so far away. And we would need either civilization to be at the speed of light and going towards us full speed to really have a chance to meet aliens. So I don't think, probably they are real, but we probably won't meet them because we are nothing in the realm of time, right? So that's why, aliens exist. We might never meet them.
I actually think that's the most realistic perspective. Is they definitely exist, and there's some other life form out there. But
it's 2020, right? So we can expect anything from 2020, even aliens.
Absolutely. All right, you could ask me one question. What question you have for me?
So would you tokenize yourself, or when are you going all in on Ethereum?
So I thought you were going to ask me if I would buy some of your Alex tokens. I thought that's what you were.
Yeah, can you buy Alex, please?
No, I cannot.
That's fine.
Now, so here's the way that I think about this. I would not tokenize myself uh, for a whole host of reasons. From
Right,
I'm an American citizen.
right.
My I just have a lot of complexity already in terms of
Yeah,
investments and all that kind of stuff. And that would just, like, I can imagine sitting down with an accountant and trying to have this conversation. They would just laugh you out of the room.
yeah,
Um, but the thing that I am interested in is I love the collectibles market. I think that that's super interesting, especially when you get digital versions versus the analog versions, right? I'm shocked that given the popularity of like the sports trading card world, that there hasn't been like more, how do we do digital trading cards, all that kind of stuff. Then the other thing I would say is I think that the whole idea of like tokenizing companies in a way to use technology to have a claim on the cash flow, right? So I think it's Basecamp maybe is the company that it's like an LLC, and the two founders they let Bezos buy into it, and he owns like 10% or something. And so like at the end of every quarter or every year or whatever, they just like distribute cash. Right. And so, like, to me, it just feels like as much as the last couple of decades has driven like complexity and financial engineering and capital markets and like all that kind of stuff, this technology just like simplifies things again and starts to automate. So what you end up doing is, like, one, you reduce accounting frauds. Two, you end up actually having a much bigger incentive for people from an equity ownership standpoint. And then three is it becomes really interesting when now all of a sudden there's no difference in somebody in the United States, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, in South America, or on the continent of Africa. Everyone with an internet connection is quote unquote equal, right, in terms of their ability to participate in financial services and ownership of assets, things like that. And so I think that's just one of these like inflection points in human history that ends up saying, wait a second, if now I can basically empower people, if I can teach them to fish, right, rather than give them the fish, what are humans capable of? Like, who the hell would have thought that, a 24-year-old sitting in Europe was going to go and tokenize himself? Like, nobody. Right. And so it's just like there's so much more that will happen. Some of it will be good, some of it will be bad. Literally some of it will be shit coins and some of it will be, real value. But I think that's kind of the encouragement of innovation and experimentation drives a lot of this stuff. And so, like, you definitely fall in the category of like either you're a genius or you're absolutely lost your mind. But I think that like you're comfortable living in that spectrum, right?
yeah.
And the world needs people like you and others like you to go try some of this stuff, and like either you're going to figure it out or you're not, right? But like if you're comfortable doing that and it's important to you, then like knock yourself out, right?
Yeah, thank you. And of course, yeah, you might not need a personal token because maybe you're not young enough, or maybe, or not just that, because you're already like A-list in your industry and you will grow with the bull market, and you already, master monetization with your newsletter and everything. And so you might not need that extra boost that, emerging creators need. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
But
And
do you have any Ethereum?
no,
Okay. Can I give you some?
no.
Yes.
No, listen, here's I mean, I've talked about this a million times on the podcast, but basically my whole thought process is it's not just a financial evaluation for me, right? And so if you think of in a financial market, like, this is one thing that I think the Bitcoin community doesn't talk about a lot, but I do think is intellectually honest. So if you look at in a bear and a bull market, just the asset sizes, so the largest assets are likely to actually go down to go up the least, right, from a volatility standpoint, and the smallest market cap ones when in a bull market should go up even more, right? Well, same thing happens when you reverse it in a bear market, right? Is a large cap asset's likely to go down the least, a small cap should go down the most, right? Now, there's always outliers. I get it. Stop tweeting at me already about the fact that, like, there's some example that violates that principle, but in general, that is true. And so when you bring that to crypto, everything is quote unquote small compared to the traditional market, right? But there still should be some spectrum in terms of if the largest cap assets go up 2x, then there's going to be a bunch of these super small assets that go up 8 or 10x, right? That's just the law of market caps. And so I think that there's a lot of people who confuse, just the financial returns with other things. And people just have to ask themselves, like, are you here just for the financial return? Well, then, like, you should go, 10x leverage and go buy some shit coin that pumps 800%, and, and you're good, right? But if you have interest in other things, which I think you do to some degree, right? And I think others, then it's evaluating not just the financial outcomes, but also the kind of non-financial impact, right?
Makes sense.
Fair. So you're going to buy some
But
Bitcoin?
no, because Ethereum just it's very fair. Ethereum will make the world better. It will enable collectibles that you like. It will enable investing in cash flow earnings. That's like the new wave of DeFi that's happening right now, and it will dominate the bull market. So I don't see why, but I get it. Like it has the best branding, Bitcoin, and it is great. And I would probably be bullish Bitcoin if I was maybe having like a older and like more wealth, perhaps. Right now, I know that if I maximize Ethereum, it will probably go higher than Bitcoin, and still it's like a auto rebalancing DeFi basket where it will capture the best protocol that is on Ethereum. So it's a safe bet. So I don't go too low in terms of liquidity for my returns, but I'm still a bit more aggressive than Bitcoin. But I think it's gonna pay off.
Awesome. All right. Where can people find you on the internet?
On Twitter at Alex Masmej, Masmej. That's it.
How do you pronounce your last name?
So it's a cut from my real French name, which is Masmejean. And I just said Masmej on Twitter. And it's weird because people think I'm Polish now, but I'm French. Yeah, I don't know how to cut my last name. If anyone has suggestions.
All right, man. Listen, I appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you so much for doing this. And I think people will find this fascinating. So we'll have to do it again in the future as you launch other things.
Thank you so much, Pomp. I'm a huge fan of your podcast.